strategically placed shade here. Right. Carrying on from the mental health aspect of my last video, I've since moved on to other aspects of mental health. What I want to talk about today is something that I came across this morning. I know I have this, so I've gotten to the point where I can just carry on in my main day and I don't realise it's there. Though when I don't do this very often, but this morning I imagined myself when I'm old. How would I be? How would I be living? I didn't try to create the picture. I just brought my mind there and I let it make the image, because that is how, in my mind, that I would see it happening. And obviously, I don't know what's going to change between now and then, so it would be based on the present. And I even came with a mental image, which was nice, even though it was just the back of my legs. I was living alone. I had no partner. I had no children, no grandchildren. It was just me. And I didn't have anyone. And I was just shuffling around this house by myself. You know what? I was okay with that. I was okay being alone. I didn't mind. I had accepted how things were. And I was okay with being alone. However, one thing that I did feel was loneliness. And loneliness isn't the same thing as being alone. This also connects in really well with the twin flame process, because, as I said, loneliness isn't the same thing as being alone. Loneliness is what you can feel when you have other people with you. Loneliness is the mental label of the mental understanding that we attribute to this feeling and to this situation. Moving that aside, for me, this is of course, it felt as a type of disconnection. Or disconnection implies that there was a connection there, and then it wasn't. So it's not disconnection now I think about it. It's more of a lack, I want to say a lack of connection, but that isn't quite right either. It just goes back to that missing. Not that you're missing something, but something is missing. That it's like there's a designated space, but what that space is designated for, it's still empty, it's still not there. And that fits in really well with the twin flame process, because often when we feel lonely, it's not because we're alone and separate from the other. It's because we know that in a sense they are there, but at the same time they're not. It's rather like being in a distance relationship. You know that you have this agreement with another person, you have that commitment, yet that person isn't there. It's kind of like that. And although in this future me that I was allowing to come forward, although there was acceptance of that, of being alone and being okay with that, there was still that loneliness. And I came to realise that I wasn't just being aware that this future me was feeling that loneliness. I actually became aware that I was actually feeling it here now. And that kind of reminded me, oh yeah, I have felt this before, but I just get on with things to the point where I just don't notice it anymore. So I decided today was going to be the day that I deal with that. So yeah, it's like I did that a bit earlier, and this is the next part of me dealing with that. That sun's moving around fast. There we go. This is the next part of me dealing with that. I usually write about things, then I just sit and I just feel through them, and if that doesn't work out, this is how my channel started. It was me. It's just me trying to process and go through and deal with all these things. So I don't know how long it's going to last for, because there's lots of wasps out here, so we'll see how it goes. So, loneliness. I know it's not about other people, because I don't actually live by myself, yet I still feel lonely. It's like there's something missing. It's not social. It's not lonely wanting, because I like being alone. But there's something missing. There's just something. It's like you can feel it across here. There's something. But if you can feel something, how can that be something that isn't there if you can feel something there? See, all this what I'm talking about here. When people say to me, what makes a twin flame process? And I go, it's the actual experience. And they go, what's that? This is the experience. If you're a twin flame, you don't need signs to show you that you are a twin flame, because you actually have the experience. This is the inner working that you're supposed to be going through. It's not just getting back with the other person. That isn't the goal. But I'm going off on a tangent now. But I think that's just fueled by that loneliness, because it's like you know it's there, but you can't see it. It's almost like you know it's there by its absence. You know there should be something there because there's an absence, but you don't know what it is that should be there. Now, this might not have anything to do with twin flames whatsoever. Yet it's odd that this comes up today, because the last 3 days I've felt that something really positive has happened, a really good change has happened. I can feel that my whole process and the whole twin flame path, our joint energy and joint progression has really shifted the last few months to the last few days, to the point where I'm happy and content with the way things are now. I've realised, rather than being at, if you imagine it as the alphabet, A to Z, lots of people, when they're new on the path, and by new I mean the first 4 or 5 years, and people that aren't even on the experience but they just think they are, they're constantly looking at how to get to Z. Z is union, that's us together. How do I get him to look at me? How do I get him to talk to me? Why is he always running up? All that kind of thing. I found that I am content and I am happy when I find, I've jumped from L to M. As long as that flow's there, I am content. I am happy. It doesn't matter if we're not together. It's just as long as that flow is there, I am good. I can feel, I can experience that sense and that great feeling that something has changed. As long as I'm feeling that, I'm happy. Yet today I have this loneliness. Maybe that shift of the last few days has actually what's brought this about, because I was laying in bed this morning before I could finally drag myself out, and I just suddenly found myself thinking about this future me, and I've never done that before, so it was really out of character for me. It's just a sense that something's not right, something's missing, something's not there. It is like it's not a disconnection, not being connected. not being connected, not being a part of, not belonging. But they aren't always bad things. No one belongs in a bad situation. No one belongs in an abusive situation. When it comes to that kind of thing, disconnecting and not belonging is a good thing. So it's not always a bad thing. It could just be, I tell you what, what we call loneliness. Feeling into that past the mental aspect to the energetic situation and state, that could also come from the fact that you're no longer in harmony and resonance. Resonance works as well, actually, with your surroundings, with your situation, with the people. But it could also be with some part of you as well. That shows that you have shifted forward from where you were. And if you haven't fully shifted yet, that's when you'll be realizing that you're lonely. This is no longer right. Yeah, that's it. This is no longer right for me. It's not that it's wrong, but it's not right. It's like, I don't not like you, but I don't like you. It's that middle ground. It's like, yeah, there's no point staying here. There's not really much. It's that kind of middle ground. I can understand it, though I don't know what to do about it. Because I don't know what that thing is that's missing. It could be a vibrational state, it could be a frequency, it could be an energy, it could be lots of things, really. Now I think I've just completely taken the whole general loneliness and I've just turned it into a whole energetic vibrational state. I don't know how quite how I manage that, but yeah, I mean that's kind of what inner work is. And taking everything, moving on from that 3D concept of it all, the mental concept, and going beyond that. But you can only really do that when you're already beyond that, which is why I'm saying to people, you need to grow and go through the process and get to that point where you can do that. Because otherwise you're just all doing it from a mental aspect. Yeah, loneliness. I know there's more to it, I can feel it. And the only thing that would be more to it would be that something that isn't in alignment, something that's not there. It's like looking around me going, well, everything's fine, but I'm not. The situation is fine, but I'm just not feeling the situation. It's not giving me what I need. I'm not feeling connected to it. I'm not feeling a part of it. I think it's just down to resonance and frequency and all that kind of stuff. And it's time just to accept that there's been a shift and moving on, and that's where I stop. I don't know, and what? It's not really something I can decide to do, mentally do. So how does one move on from that? Apart from just the understanding, which will open me up more to it, that's all I can do to allow it. It's just to make sure that there's nothing blocking it and there's nothing in the way. I'm doing my utmost to hide from the sun. It's getting round now, so I'm running out of time. So one thing I did do, that's my interpretation of the loneliness that I am aware of, and that was me looking into it and finding it out. Now, the general, well, I looked it up online to see what the general idea of loneliness is and some of the causes. And one article that I looked at said it can be caused by having a past where you were misjudged, misunderstood, which, yeah, I could see that could be a thing for me. And the other one was where you are masking yourself, not being your real self. I can't say for sure that that would apply to me, because I've kind of been, the whole point of the last 10 years was me working on that. So, masking, not being the real self, judgment. I should think if it was something like being misunderstood and misjudged, I think that would be a bit more obvious, because you'd be thinking, oh, what if they think this? What if they believe that? You'd be worried about that, and you'd be thinking about it. In that case, it would be obvious that that was, you were lonely because you were backing away from people because you feared that happening. So if it was something like that, I think that would be a bit more obvious. Masking, that's something I haven't dealt with yet. I mean, if I haven't picked up any further masking that I've been doing in the last 10 years, then I don't know where I'm going to pick it up from, because I mean, how do you realise you're doing something if you've been doing it all your whole life and you never knew about it anyway? I mean, that one's not quite so easy. So, if I have any more on this, I will do another video. So in the meantime, I'm just going to sit with that, and I'm just going to see what happens. It might be twin flame related, it might not be. I can't quite pinpoint it to anything in my life just yet, so I'm just going to sit and I'm just going to see what happens.